Labour to resume talk with federal government regarding the increase of minimum wage today after the meeting they had on the 5th of June. As we can see that Labour is actually threatening to go on strike if the federal government do not meet to some of the demands they have made to them during their last meeting. Also, we have seen on the papers that a lot of lobbying for the position of ministers is going on, lobbying from ex-governors and also Senate and even ex-ministers. So we'll keep our fingers crossed to see how all of the stories will unfold. The program is the Dailies on Echo Television International, where we keep you updated with what is happening from our papers. And I am Sarah Elisha Dasher. Rachel Tanzi is my co-host. Good morning.
Morning, Sarah.
How you doing?
I'm fine. How about you?
I'm great. How's the weekend?
The weekend was fine.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that. We're live on Facebook and on YouTube. Please do well to drop your comments or your contributions or any story that is of interest to you this morning. And let us go straight into the papers, but starting with the Nation newspaper.
On the Nation newspaper, overloading, windy rain, cause of Kwara boat tragedy. Banks tighten forex process to block racketeering, and you can find the details on page 13. South African displaces Dangote as Africa's richest. Super Eagles qualify for AFCON 2024. Investors gain 3.28 trillion naira in 3 weeks. And the big story on the Nation newspaper, Apabio Abbas lawmakers will back Tinubu to deliver. We are here to work, says First Lady. Odili rates President's performance high. Central Bank leaves restriction on domiciliary accounts. And at the downside of the paper, as bulldozers roar in Alaba, Ohaneze cautions against fake news. You can find the details on page 28, and that's all the news on the Nation newspaper.
On the Leadership newspaper, we have not declared Matawale wanted, says the EFCC. You can find that story on page 14. Apapa Port makes history, bred largest container vessel. You can find that story as well in the paper. And we have some fact check that said the CSO won against arm twisting presidential tribunal. That's a question. You want to get the answer, you check page 2. Also, we see Brazil dressed in black in match against Guinea. All of the stories can be found on page 2. Still ahead on the Leadership newspaper, Nigeria needs $60 billion foreign reserve to stabilize Naira. This is coming from experts. You find more detail, especially to those who are into business and would love to know how this will affect our currency. I was poisoned at the PDP Secretariat in 2018, coming from Wiki. You can find detail of that on page 7. The big story, lobby for appointments begin as federal government mulls dissolution of boards. With the rider, OSGF fakes ignorance, party loyalists hope for political patronage. North got 289 slots, South 278 under Buhari. Exercise necessary to streamline Tinubu's vision. All of this big story can be found on page 4. Disclosed life pension received, Serap tells the ex-governors. You find detail of that also on page 7. And Super Eagles beat Sierra Leone 3-2 to qualify for AFCON 2024. So you can find that they are now part of those who have qualified for AFCON coming next year. So you keep your fingers locked up for those who are our sport lovers and check detail of that story on page 23. And that's all on the Leadership newspaper.
On the Blueprint newspaper, Nakan airlifts 60,993 pilgrims to Saudi Arabia. El Adba holds June 28. You can find the details on page 5. Osimhen Iheanacho flies Super Eagles to Cote d'Ivoire. This is for the AFCON qualifiers. You can find the details on page 31. And the big story on Blueprint newspaper, wife of slain Kaduna monarch. Bandits killed my husband, 4 sons, married with children. Curfew imposed in Plateau community, police beef of security. Chief Imam of Ondo community kidnapped and freed. The details can be found on page 6. Atiku loot NGE election, congratulates Anaba and other officials. Police return ex-governor Matawale's vehicle, says PPRO. Naira devaluation may cause rise in import costs. A statement coming from MAN. You can find the details on page 24. And at the downside of the paper, APC has drifted from expectations of Nigerians, coming from the Northwest Vice Chair. For GDP growth, Africa must invest in youth, women, and technology, coming from Ezekwesili. You can find the details on page 6, and that's all the news on the Blueprint newspaper.
On the Vanguard newspaper, on Kwara board misshape, NIWA blames the windy rain overloading, lack of navigational aid. You can find that on page 41. And NGE President Atiku Saraki Oyebaje Sanwo-Olu congratulate Eze and Abba. You can find that story on page 10. And on electricity, 58% of consumers without meters, coming from the NERC. You find detail of that story also inside the paper. 24 hours curfew declared in Plateau local government area. That's areas that have been affected by insurgents, as the likes of Mangu and also the Riom local government area. So you can find detail of that on page 13. Islamization comment, Erufai should be invited by DSS, coming from the Middle Belt Forum. You can find that story on page 9. And coming from the cabinet, which is the big story, in fighting as APC camp pitch for ministerial jobs. With the rider lobbyists besiege Aso Rock, President may send list to Senate July 4th. Special advisors may advise ministers. You can find detail of that story on page 5. And on the 10th Senate, disclosed pension paid to you as ex-governor. Serap tells Apabio and others. You can find detail of that story on page 10. And on the subsidy removal, stabilized economy before new minimum wage, NECA tells the federal government. And we have here where we see manufacturers spend 144.5 billion naira on self-generating power in 1 year. With the right of flow industry says high energy costs push down output. And then we have real costs on businesses suggest way forward. And MAN is saying new electricity act will be beneficial. So if you want to know what that means, you check inside of the paper for detail of that story. And on Forex, allow customers free access to domiciliary account fund, CBN orders bank. You can find that on page 8. And on our economy, Nigerians power generators with cooking gas. You can find that story on page 7. Bandit kill local chief, his 4 children in Kaduna State. Detail of that story can be found on page 6. We have some column for sport and also another column coming from Owi Lakefa. So you can find all of the stories inside the paper, and that's all on the Vanguard newspaper.
On this day newspaper, coming from Bloomberg, Nigeria's oil shipping costs soar as tanker owners steer clear. The rider flowing that protest rocks Angola over fuel price hike. And on fuel subsidy, NLC 2UC resumes talk with federal government today. Fresh crisis brews in PDP over minority house leaders. You can find the details on page 40. Tinubu to fathers, you are shapers of Nigeria's future. Jostling for principal offices begins in Dume, Kalu, Buhari, Musa, others eye Senate leader. This is still on the 10th Senate leadership. Foreign exchange reforms aimed at transparency, liquidity, discouraging speculation. A statement coming from the CBN, and the writer flowing the story pegs withdrawal from domiciliary accounts at $10,000 per day to prioritize orderly settlement of foreign exchange forward transactions to boost market confidence. Direct banks to ensure expeditious processing of BTA, PTA, school fees, and others. Apex Bank to normalize its CRR maintenance process, ensure equity, and you can find more details on page 5. And we have an evening with Airtel, which is the picture story we have, and that's all the news on this day newspaper.
On Daily Independent newspaper, CBN leave restriction on domiciliary accounts. You can find that story inside the paper. PSC OK new guidelines on deployment of AIG, CPs, and others. You can find that story on the front page and continue reading inside as well. I was poisoned at PDP Secretariat. Wike opens up, reveals his kidney, liver almost failed. To find detail of all that story inside the paper. Bandit kill monarch, his 4 children, chad away 100 cattle. You can find that on page 7. Arik technically insolvent founder owns us 240 billion naira coming from AMCON. Lagos demolishes 17 massive plazas at Alaba International Market. And Serap urges Sapabio and others in the Senate to reveal pensions as ex-governors. You can find out on page 7. And this story keeps coming up, so Rachel, I would like us to talk a little about it, because I think it's something Serap have been saying. I think they said that yesterday, and we've seen that almost most of the papers want to know or have actually captured it as their story, why Serap is actually asking all of these ex-governors to reveal the pension they receive as ex-governor. And it's important, Rachel, if you recall, there was a time I was saying that it seems as if the nation resources is only in the hands of few individuals. And if you look at it properly, we begin to see that there's a rotation of these leaders. You were a former governor, you are now a senate. Or you were a former governor, a former senate, now you are either in another position, still in the government. And then we have to remember that as an ex-governor, you have a pension that keeps coming. There was a time we saw the massive package that these governors are giving as a giveaway price, not to talk about their pension properly. So you have pension coming as an ex-governor. Maybe you're one time even the governor during the military regime, so you have a pension as a state, as a state
military head of state.
Head of state. Thank you so much. As a head of state, you have a pension as head of state. You have a pension as an ex-governor. You have a pension as a former senator. So you begin to see that you have so much, and we've been talking about cutting the cost of governance because, of course, Nigeria is presently not really buoyant financially if we're going to look at it. So I do not think it's out of place for Sarah to actually ask Akpabio, because you know he was a former governor of Akwa Ibom State. And then we have other ministers that were former governors at one point or the other. And I really, we've seen that there are states that have come up to say they are no longer paying pension to their ex-governors anymore because they cannot afford to do that. And I applauded such states that came up with such policies or such guidelines, because it will really help them to cut their cost of governance. We have governors living debt, or there's nothing whatsoever even in the treasury of the state. So you begin to see that there is kind of a point coming from Sarah when they ask Akpabio to reveal the pension they receive as ex-governors.
So they're like, I keep saying it, that there are certain things in this country, we want to get it right. It shouldn't be like I'm begging somebody to please consider. You're not leaving the person to have it as an option whether to or not to do something like that. And if we are truly looking at cutting the cost of governance as a way forward to making sure that our resources are not only going into governance as in allowances and all the benefits that come from people in offices, then we are not just supposed to make it be like it's in their mercy. Okay, please, sir, can you reduce how much we are going to give you for pension? And please, can you review this? And maybe instead of it be 1 million, let you. No, Sele, we need to sit down. This is where we will know that we have selfless leaders in position, leaders that are truly ready to make the sacrifice for Nigeria to get to where it should be. That is, certain things should be passed as a bill, Sele, that we are going to regulate allowances the governors get. We are going to regulate the allowances that senators get. We are going to regulate the benefit, that we are going to pass a bill that will drastically, of course, you are in a big position, so it is not going to be an inconsiderate review. But if it is coming to the spotlight that it is a problem for us, that there is so much going into the cost of governance, then it's not something that it should be put on the table for people to consider out of their free will. And then it should be a bill that, okay, you know what, we need to review the cost of governance in the whole country completely. It's not about a state. It's not going to affect specific people, but every office holder down from the Senate, from the House of Representatives, from the state level, and all of that. When you make it that necessary, when you don't make it an option but something necessary, and like you implement it, then it shows that we are going somewhere. Then it shows that we truly have selfless leaders that are willing to make this kind of sacrifice for Nigeria to go to somewhere else. But as long as you keep leaving it for people to decide whether or not, I don't think that after waiting for so long to become a Senate president, except if I have that much good heart, I will sit down and just want what, because we've had it in the mouths of Nigeria. We call it national cake, and I keep saying it's not national cake. When we keep having this mentality, no wonder we have people going there and all they think about is how much I'm going to walk out of this office with, rather than work. Because if people have been working, we would have been in a better place than it is now. So when we look at something important as cutting down the cost of governance in this country, we see how much it takes from our budget and how much it hasn't taken us further. It shouldn't be put out there as if whether you like it or not, but we should put things in place that is no longer something of whoever wants to do it. It's just like when we kept on hammering concerning the local government autonomy. This is something that will help a state. It shouldn't be something at the mercy of a governor to decide or not.
Of course, it's not the governor. He has no say whatsoever on that.
Exactly. So when we want to take serious decisions in this country, let's make it serious. Let's not just leave it out there as if it doesn't matter, but let the necessary precaution needed to implement certain things be done.
Of course, I love the fact that it says it's not a bone off. We are not arguing. It's not up for negotiation. But we hope to see lawmakers that will come out and say, this is it. How did all the states come up with the fact that they say we are no longer paying ex-governors any pension whatsoever? Because most of these ex-governors have something going on for themselves. Meanwhile, the citizens or the indigenous of the various states are actually of course, and just like you brought up this local government autonomy, it's up to the various state house of assembly to actually, pass that bill and say this has come to stay. And of course, the governor is not supposed to even influence it. But reverse is the case, we see that it's really a sad thing that we see governors beginning to influence. So we hope to see, just like when the president came up, he and his wife had one thing in common, and they say they do not need the resources of Nigeria because God has blessed them already. So that means I'm hoping to see the president coming out with a bill that said, okay, I'm cutting down various things and submitting it to the Senate. What do you think about this? Let's cut down some of these allowances because it's really not necessary. That is if, just like you say, we have selfless leaders that truly want to take governance to the next level. We're still on Daily Independent. We have not declared former Governor Matawali wanted coming from the EFCC. And we have amid economic headwind, 10 insurer earned 376.121 billion naira GWP. Find detail of that story inside the paper. And on the 10th, House of Reps will work for all Nigerians, Abbas assures. You can find all of that story on page 6. We hope to see them passing bills that will benefit Nigeria. We have a picture story here where we can see there the governor of Lagos State or your state. We have Wike, and also we have the Senate president in their midst. You can do well to get the Daily Independent and read detail of story that is of interest to you.
On Nigerian News Direct, I was poisoned at PDP Secretariat, but God healed me. Statement from Wike. Don't turn ICPC boss to a toothless dog. Groups urge 10th National Assembly. And on student loans, give grants instead of loans. A statement coming from ASU, and I couldn't agree less with them. You can find the details on page 22. Asari Dokubo allegation reveal names of crude oil thieves, Nigerian Navy, and then the writer flowing the story, no black sheep will be spared. Discipline erring military officers publish list of operations coming from Sahara Energy co-founder. You can find the details on page 21. Rancor free election, Tinubu applauds Nigerian editors for upholding democratic culture. NAFDAC hints on preparedness to rule out malaria vaccine clinical trial. You can find the details on page 2. How Basiru, ex-Senate spokesperson, warned Aribesola against Oshun APC factionalization. This is a revelation coming. You can find the details on page 2. Disclose pensions paid to you as ex-governor Serap tells Akpabio and others in the 10th Senate Assembly. You can find the details on page 3, and that's all the news on Nigerian News Direct.
On the Guardian newspaper, amid subsidy removal pains, expert advocate long-term benefits. If you want to know more about the benefit, do well to find that story on page 3. Professionals deploy high cost of treatment as World Sickle Cell Day upholds. And I think it's important we raise our awareness, especially, I think I was reading somewhere where I saw that they're trying to work on certain, just like we're having a vaccine for malaria, we're beginning to see professionals working on how certain tests can be done so we can reduce this. And I think we need to really have enough awareness, because it's really sad when you begin to see patients of sickle cell anemia, you know, that a lot of people are going through pain. So I hope to see awareness, not just on a day where we keep saying this here, let's not just limit this awareness to a day being said, okay, let us celebrate World Malaria Day, let us celebrate World Sickle Cell Day. No, let us see more awareness being done even beyond that day, how we can reduce this, the importance of you knowing your genotype, your blood type, your history. Do we have such person in our family before? Because it's surprising the way these things go right now.
Yes.
You realize that both your mom and your dad, nobody had that, and then eventually you begin to see a child coming up with that. So I think it's important we even have to get to know our, our history, so begin to know that, okay, whether I'm actually at risk of getting such. So I think it's important that we see awareness coming up, not just that day, but even beyond this, like that.
And some things we honestly don't have to wait till is World Malaria Day, till it's World this or that day. It should be a consistent thing. There shouldn't be too much emphasis on our health. If you have your way, make checkups a routine. Don't make it an optional thing or a leisure thing. No, it's not luxury. It's actually very important. And when it comes to sickle cell, it is important for us to keep raising awareness every day. You don't, and thank God we have this everywhere. You have this for couples getting married. You have it at the church level. You have it at every counseling level. Medically, you go to the hospital, such questions are being asked. It's important for you to know the dangers of all of these things, and then the risks you stand to face when you go ahead without the knowledge of certain things. So we just hope that it should be an everyday thing.
Of course, and let us go down to our grassroots level, the local government, because those are the people that are mostly ignorant of all of this thing. Still on the Guardian newspaper, the big story: household under pressure as new electricity tariff due July 1st. You can find that big story on page 6, and that is for those who have the prepaid meter. We've seen that in the paper. Some households do not even have that prepaid meter, so we know what that means. So we hope to see that that will be made compulsory, so that some people don't get to pay for other people while using electricity. Still on the Guardian newspaper, force over bill to regulate Christian preaching. Wow, you find that story on page 4 for those who are interested on that story. And on petrol subsidy, government Labour resume negotiation on implementation framework. You can find that story on page 6. And on the 10th National Assembly, disclose pensions paid to you as ex-governors, Serap tells Akpabio and others. I was poisoned at the PDP office, suffered liver and kidney failure, says Ricky. You can find out on page 29. And we have available Greek electricity, 3,057.7 megawatts from 17 power points. So you do well to read the graph, some of the foreign exchange rate used in setting the tariff, and then how that will affect the new electricity tariff that will be coming up from July 1st. And I think the issue of this petrol subsidy is something that has been coming in our paper. And I know this is something that hopefully when we open the phone call, we begin to hear people, because I think that was basically most of the calls we had on Friday, where people were saying that this talking of the new minimum wage should not just be limited to the civil servant. We've seen people even going as far as maybe staging a protest that this should concern all Nigerians, because everybody goes to the market, everybody gets to use the transport fare. So of course it affects everybody, regardless of whether you are a civil servant or not. And we've seen that Labour will be resuming talk today, even though they are threatening another strike, because they said they only hold on to that strike because they were hoping the federal government will actually do something. And we know, we record that as of that 5th of June, the minimum wage they were asking before was 200,000, but they have taken it down to 150,000 naira from the 30,000 naira. So we hope to hear what the talks will be as they resume today. But we hope that they will come to an understanding, a compromise, both sides. So at the end of the day, we begin to see that the common one don't keep suffering or keep paying for things that he or she did not bargain for at the end of the day. Because one thing we know, the way things are in this country, Rachel, is the fact that once transport fare is 200, it never goes down. It only goes up. Once the food price, very few, I think the only thing Nigeria right now happy is the fact that the cost of gas is now down. When back then was when you spend 10,000 naira to feed your maybe 6 kg, but right now you can use 6.5, 6.8, 7,000, depending on where you buy it, whether you buy it at outlets or at the power gas plant. So we see that Nigerians are happy for things like that, but we hope to see that it affect every other area eventually. So we hope to hear what the outcome of this new talk that they will be resuming today, because they actually held it for today. So we hope that no strike will actually, because we've seen that they already, like Plateau State government or some of the civil servants, they're presently on strike. So some offices are locked, you can't get access to it and all of that. So we hope all of these things will be, revisited, so we don't have to hear that any sector will go on strike whatsoever.
Because selling until I have food before I think of what to cook it on. So it is a good thing that gas is going down. However, we are talking about food shortage here. We're talking about prices of food going high. And I remembered before what made NLC to not go on strike after 2 weeks back was because they gave the federal government time to disburse this palliative that we've taken loans from the federal government. And sometimes these are the kind of things that bothers me. If minimum wage is taking a while, now I'm wondering why the loan that have already been given and approved, we already are in possession of this loan because that's been given by the World Bank, we are not seeing the disbursement. At least we will know that the federal government has started doing something, but we're yet to hear or see anything being done about it. And then it makes me wonder, do the federal government want the NLC to go on strike or not? Because this is something that we're supposed to have seen you started implementing by now to really start helping the very poor that you plan on targeting to help a little bit. So I just hope that the federal government starts doing something about it. If minimum wage will take a while, then why don't you start with the one that wouldn't take a longer process like that, so that we won't have a nationwide strike selling?
Rich, I'm looking forward to seeing, the last NEC meeting they had. We saw when the president was calling on governors, he said they actually begged for this vote coming from Nigerians. So they should not expect anybody to pity them. Because they should be capable of that. And we've seen various sub-states like the like of Kwara that have reduced the working days to 3 days in a week rather than 5 days, just so that people can get, not really feel the impact that much. And I think there's a way that governors can actually come in to the rescue of their own, citizens in a way. Either if you cannot get some buses that can actually send, because of course it won't reach everybody eventually, but then what can you do to make sure, just like you said, the federal government right now, this is at the federal level, so what is the state government doing about it? These are questions that Nigerians would like to know. What is the local government doing about this? Because you cannot be a governor and then you don't do something. We've seen people asking so many questions and they want to know what their own governor is doing about these promises you made. What is happening? We're yet to feel it. Nigerians, the way we are. So I'm hoping to hear something coming from the state governor. What are you willing to do for your people with all of this that is happening at the end of the day? So we'll keep our fingers crossed to hear more about this. And that's all on the Guardian newspaper. But before we move further to other papers, let's take a break so we can open the phone lines and also let you drop your comment on our Facebook and YouTube channel. Please stay tuned. We'll be right back. Thanks for staying tuned. It's still the Dailies on your winning station. We've been looking at various stories that have been dropping on our papers, looking at the student loan, where ASU is of the opinion that government should give grant instead of the loans they are planning to give. And then we've seen that Labour will be resuming its talk with federal government regarding the minimum wage and also the palliative for the people and regarding the removal of the fuel subsidy today. And also they are threatening a strike. So we hope that all goes well so that no strike goes whatsoever. Our phone numbers are displayed on your phone, on your screen at this moment. So please do well to call us. We'd love to hear what your thoughts are concerning any story that is of interest to you. And please do remember to turn down the volume of your TV set as you call us. You can also drop your comment on our Facebook and then we'll take it live here on the show just in case you're unable to get through to us as other callers will be queuing up. So we'd love to hear your thoughts. I still have Rachel Tenzi with me in the studio. Thanks, Rachel.
You're welcome, Sally.
All right, let's move on to the next paper before we have our calls coming in.
On the Matrix newspaper, the big story, Wiki.
All right, we already have a call. Hello, good morning, sir.
Can I be on to the studio?
Yes, sir, Mr. Sam. Go ahead, please.
Hello.
Mr. Sam from Buhari, we're with you.
Hello,
Go ahead.
good morning.
Morning.
Good morning, Mrs. Sele. Good morning, Mrs. Rachel. I'm Sam. I'm calling from Buhari here. And I want to comment on one of your headlines, which is the devaluation of the Naira will raise cost of imports. Yeah, that is true. We know that whatever affects our Naira, the Forex, definitely affect every sectors of our life, especially on items, on imported items. Being a country that is almost 98%, if you like, dependent on mostly foreign goods we have had produced in this country, and will be the most affected in those high cost of material products is the ordinary man. Then you weigh that with the removals of the subsidy, and it's ripple effect, because when the subsidy is removed today, the announcement, everything just jacked up. Then you look at also the rise in electricity bills. When this government came to power, the electricity bill per kilowatt rate was just 14 naira 70 kobo. On assumption of office, Buhari regime raised it to 24 naira 30 kobo. It went to about 31 naira, which is just 1,000 naira will give you 32 units. I bought an electricity bill in my house this week. It's 1,000 naira will give you just 12 units, which is 83 naira 33 kobo. And then a headline is now telling us that a new electricity bill is coming out by July. Now, with all this, we must weigh this against the backdrop that more than 130 million Nigerians were living in a multi-dimensional poverty before Tinubu came in. Does the politician think about the survivors of the ordinary man in Nigeria? How come democracy became a cost on the ordinary citizens of Nigeria? Now, just oppose this with Serap and Akpabio. You became a governor. You are living after 4 years or 8 years with all your salaries and everything and whatever you have gotten. They give you a life pension that houses are built for you in Abuja and your state capital. And you are given a life pension that you are paying almost 100% of your salary and all your domestic. Then you are enjoying this thing for life. You came to Senate and they are paying you about 30-something million. And you are going, we are just told that about 91 billion was set aside for severance. Now, and these pensions are not stopped. Other Nigerians will work for 35 years and cannot get their pensions. Why will politics not be the most, important business? Why will people not be killing to be able to ascend to that position? So we must change our law, because all the borrowing they are doing is not affecting the big man. It's only the common man like us. And democracy allows us to be able to speak our mind. But in Nigeria, our democracy says don't say anything. If you speak out, they come for you. This is not the democracy we all fought for when we are student activists in the universities. We want a country that belongs to all, not only the politicians. So we must be able to speak out. A senator should be able to tell us the National Assembly should make law. Once you have, if you're an ex-governor, you come into a Senate, all those salaries must be stopped, all those pensions. The country is not built for politicians alone. And finally, a woman who lost her husband and 4 children. what is left for her? Who is saying that there is no war going on in this country? If every of your household has been killed, what is left? Where is the joy of living again? Thank you, and do have a great day.
Thank you so
Thank you
much,
very
Mr.
much,
Sam.
Mr.
It was
Sam.
some very vital things that need to be talked
Yes,
about.
hello.
And as much as it's a hard conversation for us to have, but it's important that we have it eventually. And it's not far-fetched from what we said here, Richard, on the fact that it, as Mr. Sam was talking, I just remember somewhere where someone was saying, why will a politician that served for just 4 years or 8 years have a life pension? Meanwhile,
People that
a
have
civil
served
servant that
35
worked for
years.
35 years in service or up to 65
Barely
years
sees
is still
a
fighting
pension.
for the little pension. And we're not talking
Yes.
about money that's
their
money for
pension is
my
not
money.
life, Sele.
You get it? So
Yeah.
it's quite sad when you begin to hear stories like this. So we really hope that this new government will have a new face. This new dispensation will give us hope, because really Nigerians are really holding on to. The hope might be really tiny, but very slimmy. But then still, Nigerians are hoping that at the end of the day, at the end of the tunnel, there will be light. And I think that this is what Nigerians want to hear, that there is hope at the end of all of this.
Comment more on the last caller.
All right, please go
That
ahead,
caller
sir.
about the electricity bill.
All right.
I think Nigeria needs to rise up and say enough of this. We are. Hello?
We're with you, sir. Please go ahead.
Hello?
We can hear you clearly. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, what I'm trying to say about what the last caller said about the electricity tariff, I think Nigeria has to wake up. It's enough. We are already going through hell by the subsidy that has been removed. Many people cannot afford transport to go to work. People cannot drive their vehicles. People don't have enough. Now you want to increase the price of electricity for Christ's sake. How can we live? Where will this money come? How can people survive in Nigeria? I think this government is starting on a taboo. They need to think twice for the poor masses. That's my take for today.
All right, thank you so much, sir. And before this call came in, Rachel, remember last week, it was quite funny, but it was a serious case. When I said, we remember back then, back then, just like you said, we're hearing our parents saying it, that whenever NEPA then will not bring light, you get a text message or a call saying, for so period to so period, we are having some maintenance, you won't get light and all of these. But reverse is the case. And we saw Mr. Sam taking us back to how much we're buying. Right now, you're going to buy 1,000 naira, and then at the end of the day, you're just having 12 units.
Yeah.
And then that is where you start offing your fridge, offing the gas cooker, offing, I think gas cooker, the cooker, and all of that. All right, we have another call. Good morning.
Yes, good morning, Stella.
Morning.
Good morning.
I want to contribute.
All right, please go ahead.
I want
Reduce
to
the
contribute
volume
what,
of your TV set, sir.
What Mr. Ekuru, Mr. Sam from Gwari has said. So, okay, all I'm trying to say is this. For Christ's sake, like a patio of a person, look at the salary which Mr. Sam. What kind of a life are we living? This democracy that we fought for, is it not a scam? This kind of U.S. democracy. Sincerely speaking, autocratic government is even better. That is why anytime Mr. Sam calls, I'm always happy. Personally, to that Equacall TV, so that he come and showcase his talent and then to speak to us in Nigeria. Sincerely, it's too bad. Pension of some people are not even paid, but only one man is even paid huge amount. That's corruption on a highest level. Mr. Sam, maybe hey, Joe.
Thank you so much for that contribution, Rachel. So we're still saying about the electricity tariff issue, and then it's quite painful because you don't even get to see the light, number one. First subsidy have been taken, you can't even afford it. You can't even cook anything and keep in the fridge because you are not sure when you will see the light. Your foodstuff is wasted because you can't even afford to buy it, and when you manage to buy it, you can't even store it at the end of the day. So a lot of things are going on, and we just hope that the government really understand the plight of the people, because if you say you are there, just like we have people saying, if we are really practicing democracy, what is the definition of democracy? Government of the people, for the people, by the people. So everything is about the people. They should be at the center of all of this. But then we see that basically most time the people are taken out of it, and then we begin to see some great individuals are at the center of all of this. So we hope to see some, change taking place.
Tinubu is the last person of ruling Nigeria. After Tinubu, there's no more Nigeria again or president. So this one is the last president we have gotten.
Sorry, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Okay, so what you people are doing in that country, wherever we say things there, what you are seeing there is not working.
What's your name and where are you calling from?
Tinubu is the last president
Hello,
of Nigeria.
what's your name and where are you calling
from? I
from?
want to do.
Please, MCR, I need you to end that call. Thank you. Because I really don't know. He won't tell me his name, but then he's agitating. And I don't think it's a time where we begin to lose hope. Of course, Tinubu is not the last person to rule Nigeria. We still have good leaders that will rule Nigeria. This is not the end of Nigeria. We are the hope of the country, and we need to keep speaking positive things. We have to keep believing. We have to realize our powers if you follow us. Because one thing is that we begin to see greedily. All right, we have another call. Hello, good morning. Please, can you turn down the volume of your TV set? Morning, sir.
My name is Augustine from my State.
All right, Augustine, please turn down the volume of your TV set.
I shall have from my State. Please, I want to verify what people are saying over there. Because in Nigeria, we are no more in Nigeria now. We are now in.
Hello.
We are not in.
Please, my control room, can you end that call so he calls us back again? Thank you so much. Please, to our callers, we really love and appreciate it if you turn down the volume of your TV set, because we find it very difficult to hear what you want to say and you really want to contribute positively. So we would love to hear from you. And just like the last call, it seems he's taking a leaf from the last call, Richard. You heard him clearly, and he was kind of, Nigeria, we are no more in Nigeria. I just keep feeling the fact that we have a part to play. And most time we see leaders doing what they are doing because followers don't checkmate with them. If followers checked with them, and then we begin to rise up and realize that you're not doing well, come back home. Maybe we'll begin to have good leaders. All right, good morning, sir. Please go ahead.
My name is Frank. My name is Frank.
All right, Mr. Frank, good morning.
Are you hearing me?
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
My name is Frank.
All right, go ahead, please.
Morning, my dear. How are you? You look very lovely.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. In further, I want to talk about this oil problem, oil palaver.
Okay.
The removal of subsidy. Now we heard this morning that they are jostling for appointment and all the rest of it. The poor man has been relegated. Nobody talks about it any longer. The NLC or whatever they call them, or TUC, they are even tired. They are not doing anything because the government is using the state apparatus to fight them. If they talk, the court will tell them not to embark on strike. Then where is the poor man going to get reprieve? We are here every day. They appoint this, they appoint that. The appointments are not even for the poor. It's for them who struggled for the power. Look at Babio. He was a governor before for 8 years in Akwa Ibom State. Everybody know their clearance packages and all the rest of it, and he's still earning up to today. Now he's now in the Senate with other ones who like him, enjoying themselves. The poor man is dying. You as a person, I hope you have gone to the market and see the cost of living. See, even a pepper in the market now is, somebody will tell you, there's no this. So what do we do? Are we going to continue like this? Is Nigeria meant for poor to die or to live? Something has to be done. If somebody don't know what is, because if somebody is telling, he's doing work, we are not, we'll be dancing like this till they dancing around. Tomorrow they'll bring another problem. We'll put, because the oil subsidy now has closed. Mark it somewhere. Nothing will happen. We will be marolling till the end of the year. we will still be talking about it. So I thank God. The poor man should know that he have no stake in this country. The big men that have the stake, let them enjoy themselves till the kingdom come. If God, will, in His infinite mercy, will make somebody who knows what is going to do in the government should come in and do something. All this one you are doing sentimental brothers and ethnic, this cannot help anybody. So have a beautiful day. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Frank, for that contribution. Richard, I guess you have a lot to contribute.
A caller was showing his grievances towards democracy. And then what I just want to say is that democracy as it is and for what it stands, I would like to say is a good system of governance. We don't want an autocracy here. We don't want dictatorship here. We don't want democracy as it is structured. If we are to follow it as it is, democracy is a good system of governance. But what we are having is the people.
Right, sorry, let's take this call. Hello, good morning. All right, Apostle Prosper, go ahead, please.
Hello.
We can hear you, Apostle. Please go ahead.
Good morning.
Morning.
It's been a while. I've not been able to call in.
Yes, sir.
God bless you.
Thank you.
I want to say, as bad as things are in the country, I still believe in Nigeria. I still believe that God has a dream, a purpose for Nigeria. I still believe that irrespective of who is there, whether we support it or not, God can use anybody. If God could use an axe, a donkey, sorry to say, to halt a negative project by a supposed prophet, I'm sure God can use anybody. So I want to tell a different job from some of the belief of some persons that have called in. All we need is to believe. We must believe, as believers, we must believe that Nigeria can come out better. But in terms of putting the people in the right places, who is really among politicians that is not corrupt? Even those who are crying now that others are corrupt, they too, they are corrupt in a way. It's just that in Nigeria, we like to give dog a bad name. But a dog is a dog. Whether it has a good name or a bad name, a dog is a dog. So that is what it is. Politicians are politicians. We are crying now, the former government are no more. Who know what these ones are going to do? So we just keep hopeful, trusting God to use this present government to do the needful. All that the Nigerians want is good governance. We are tired of stories. Let them be doing the Lord. But I am sure and I'm trusting God that this time around, Nigeria are more awoken, to the fact that we need a working country. And that is my take. All I'm trusting God for is a working nation, a nation that is working. I also want to encourage the government not to spare the rod. All those who looted our fund, our commonwealth, should all return it. There should be nothing like partisan or is a member of my political party. No, all of them should return the monies that they have been alleged to have stolen from the common purse of Nigeria. That is where I stand. Nigeria, God helping us when we get there. And when I'm praying, I'm not praying that Nigeria be better. I'm praying for my pocket to be better. That is the hard truth. That is the hard truth. I'm praying for my economy to improve and be better. I'm not expecting pig milk to be sold for 15 kobo. But I should be blessed. I should have an enabling environment enough where I will be able to afford, however the amount I should be able to afford. That is the country I'm looking for. Let them give us the opportunity, the platform, the environment to bring out our best and make the most of this country. Oh, you are looking beautiful this morning. God bless you.
Thank you, Apostle, for that beautiful contribution and also encouragement to every Nigerian. Richard, let me take your...
Yes, sir. So what I was wanting to say is quickly this, that, okay, democracy with its structure gives room to be corrected. It's not rigid, it's very flexible. So the part that you and I can play is to vote leaders there. And I believe that that's where we are having our bone of contention, that we vote people in there and they're not doing anything, because you and I in our position can make major laws, can make put in rules that can change and affect the life of people. But what we did is to vote the people that we trusted can do certain things. You were made a senator, and every month you were given 100 million naira, for example, for your constituency. And before you went into the position, you promised you would build 5 primary schools in this constituency. After 4 years of receiving 100 million every month or quarterly or however it's been given as a constituency allowance, you didn't even build 1 school. Now, what is the system that's supposed to be put in place is that even after 1 year, for a period of 12 months, we've been giving you 100 million, meaning at the end of the year, you were giving over 1 billion and you haven't built 1 school. So why do you have to wait till it's after 4 years before you're asking this person, why haven't you built this school? We have a system, we have a constitution. If you say that a governor is supposed to have a lifetime pension, and after years you've seen that, okay, this is not helping us out, the cost of governance is going high, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to sit down and review and say, this is not working for us, this is eating so much of our revenue. Let's review it and do something about it, Sele. That's how democracy is supposed to work. It's for checks and balances. We've tried this for 4 years. It haven't worked. It's time for our lawmakers to sit down. You are representing us here. You're representing us there. This haven't worked for us. Let's correct it. But over the years, we've had people who have sat down and refused to correct what have not been working. And what is you and I, the common man, supposed to do? We keep putting people there, trusting them that they are supposed to do what is expected, and they end up not doing what is expected, and the lawmakers are sleeping, the senators, as everybody is sleeping. As far as I'm concerned, in this country, that is why it looks like we are not heading somewhere. But as long as you wake up, we wake up. Now I feel that this administration now have the chance to prove to Nigerians that they truly have us in mind, because they don't feel what we are going through, in the sense that they don't take care. They already have allowances from the government directly funding their daily activity. So you're not even in the position to say, I feel your pain.
Because you don't know what it
because you
feels
don't
like.
know what the pain is. However, you're supposed to be a listener, and when you hear the people saying this is not working for us, you act on it. Now this government have the chance to prove to us that they want a better Nigeria, and we are looking out to see if they want the best for us.
Of course, Richard, thank you so much.
Yes,
It's always a
welcome.
pleasure doing this with you.
Thank you, sir.
And to all our callers who call in this morning, we're truly grateful for your impact, for the positive contributions on the program this morning. Thank you so much to our producer, the crew members, the general manager, the executive, and all our supporters and viewers who have always stood by us all these years. Thank you so much for always doing this with us. Remember, you can be part of the history you want to change, because it's not all about the leaders, but you and I have a role to play, and let us play our role and see how it goes. Have a blessed day ahead.